as we know
Okay.
that Python is the one programming language which is used for multiple concepts. I
Right.
had also in the starting when I was starting in this IT field. Firstly, I had worked with the development part with Python, like how to develop the web application, how to develop the web APIs backend, like to handling the backend. I have an also experience in a data modeling as well. That for any application we need to design a DBMS architect. So I have an experience of a data modeling as well. As per my experience of data modeling, I get to chance to work with the Spark in 2018 or maybe in 2017. So
Okay.
after then, I'm totally working with the Spark.
Okay.
So Spark is something as a one framework for handling the data. Right?
Right.
There are multiple languages which we can use in Spark, something known as a Scala. We can also go with the Java as well. So Scala was preferable in Spark 1, but in the present we are working with Spark 2. So Spark 2 most of the time, most the famous thing uh, which is used in the present market is something known as PySpark. That means you are going to use the Python code for Spark 2. Right? So here famous one is PySpark. All the requirement, all the organizations say that I want a Spark with Python, not with the Scala. Like somehow, if you are comfortable with the Scala, then you can go with that. But most of the people are comfortable with the Python, so they go with the PySpark. Now, firstly, as I had said, that we are always start with the introduction, what exactly the concept is, what exactly you have to do in your daily basis as a data engineer. Then Python is required if you want to write down a Spark code. Python is must. You need to know how a basic Python code is going to be work. Like core Python is mandatory. If I'm writing any code, you know the syntax wise that how these things are going to be work, how variable, what actually going to be assigned into the variables, the basic sense. Then some of the advanced Python I had mentioned that you have to understand how to handle the files because most of the time in a Spark we have to work with a DBMS, like we need to do some of the connectivity of the database. In Spark we have a different way, but Python things are mandatory. You know, you should know how to write down a pseudocode. That means a core Python code. If you want to open any kind of the file, if you want to work with any kind of the uh, DBMS with Python. So these some of the advanced concepts are there. Now, OOPS concept is also mandatory because we are even if you don't want to create any class, that is fine. But there are many of the inbuilt classes available in a Spark, available in a Pandas. So we need to understand how this class is created, how we are creating an object of class, how this method is going to be called. Fine. So all the things will be are going to be covered. Then a regular expression is most often required whenever we want to work with text kind of the data. Fine. So RE also required. Before PySpark, we have something known as a data frame. Data frame is going to be used in a PySpark. That means if you want to work with the Spark, you should be very much fine with the Pandas. Pandas is also another library of Python which is used for the data analysis part as well. If you are moving for the data science field, if you are moving for the ML part, this Pandas is also required for that. Fine. So we can consider Pandas for either for the data analysis, either for the data engineering. Even Spark is also using the Pandas as a data frame. So this pandas I'm going to cover up in our training part. After this panda, we are going to cover with the Spark. As I had mentioned, Yogi, that as you have a knowledge about the data, we have also an ETL tool. That is fine. Even a person who is totally fresher, I do introduce the concept of the ETL and data warehouse because this is somehow important that how previously working, how the new approach is going to be used in our daily scenario. Then we have an introduction of a proper theoretical, like it proper use cases introduction, so that a person a real time use case I will explain so that it's in the mind of a person that how okay why we are using this Spark, what was the problem, what was the like blockers on that time we were facing, so why we are.
Experienced guy. Data warehouse
Yes,
concept you wanted to introduce. Hello?
yes. I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes. Yeah.
So after data warehouse, I have to like explain the setups of the database. Then, as I had mentioned, that we need to write down the code, Spark code in a database. It's most often required. Many of the organization go with the database. Even I had worked with many of the client, all required is database. Then we have something data frame APIs that is totally we are starting with the very much basics. Even I can also explore this content more on, but I had covered the highlighted part here because I know that what the things are required in a Spark. As I had met, as I had mentioned, I had worked on a Spark a lot, multiple projects I had worked on a Spark. So all these things that how to work with the API transforming, like how to transform the data. We have some of the data frame APIs we are going to use in Spark. We have to something like connectivity of SQL with the Spark, that how we can fetch the data from the DBMS, working with the different data set. It can be a JSON data, then different sources we have. So somehow it is these two things are somehow similar. And uh, I was explaining about my training part. uh, I am providing training from maybe 2016 or 17 to many of the USA based candidates. Till now, I do provide a training on core Python as well. I do provide training on a advanced Python. If a person who is totally fresher, he just want to run on, he just go want to go with the Python only. So I have a different course content for him for Python core and advanced. Then if another person coming for the web development, so I have another content. I do provide training on a different domains of the Python. This is data engineering is one of them. Right? Whatever I had worked on that, but the real scenario, the experience, whatever I have, on the basis of that experience, I do provide the training. Now, in my training part, somehow in these things, we can consider for understanding the Spark first two session, like first two session will be theoretical session. Theoretical session may be two session, but most often like it take two session, 1 to 2 session for just understanding the concept. And from day three, we are starting how to write down a code in a database for Spark.
Uh, yeah,
That yes, please.
The thing is, see, just we wanted to introduce myself or Yogendra or Ramana, right? We have a
Mm-hmm.
very good experience in data warehousing, and we
Mm-hmm.
even have a little experience on Spark. We implemented some solution,
Mm-hmm.
but only thing is we wanted to. This is how we are envisioning. We wanted to
Mm-hmm.
learn the Python first, so
Mm-hmm.
that Python being a multi-purpose scripting
True.
language
True.
which can help us in build career in any way, any other
Mm-hmm.
area as well, not only data engineering, if you learn it properly. So we want to build our knowledge on Python first, and once we get into some level, then we wanted to learn as a first objective the Spark as a
Mm-hmm.
data engineer, that
Mm-hmm.
is PySpark. That is our
Mm-hmm.
ask. So what whoever have in this call, myself, uh, Yogendra or Ramana, we are all under
Mm-hmm.
same category, and we are looking at this direction. Yeah,
I totally got your point. That's the reason I had mentioned this course content, that first we are starting with Python only. Fine. Introduction is there about the content, then totally we are starting with Python, because all the time you need to learn how to write on a pseudo code in Python. So Python is required for multiple things. If you are moving for the DS part, for the data analysis part, for the data science part, these things are always required. You should know how to write on a Python code. This core Python, that means the basics of the Python. Then we are moving to some of the advanced concept of the Python. So as per the requirement, I'm showing you this course content. Then the last part is something known as Spark. Before Spark, we have another module, something known as a Pandas, which is going to be required for handling the data, either for the analysis part, either for the engineering part. So for this much, as you had mentioned, you want to learn Python first. So these things are very much mandatory for you. For first, you need to cover the basics part of the Python, then advanced
exactly.
part of
Yeah,
the Python, then Pandas. Our most of the time we will spend on this one. Then later on we move to the Spark.
that's great. Thank you, Aman.
Now, I was just explaining my experience with Python. As I had mentioned, I do provide the training on a different domains of the Python. My specialty is in the Python because from in my starting of my career, I was working with Java as well. But after then, I just totally moved into Python. I had worked with many of the web application with Python. I had developed multiple projects on Django and Flask as well. I do. I had also developed some of the serverless APIs with the Lambda functions by using some of the AWS services. So different domains, some of the domains I had worked on, developing the APIs, developing the web applications, scraping the data with Python, handling the data with Pandas, then engineering with Spark. So Python and Spark we can handle properly. Now I was just explaining about my training part, how the things are going on. Each and everything will be practical, nothing will be theoretical. So as I was mentioning for the Spark, some of the theoretical concepts were there, but as you had mentioned, you have knowledge about the data warehouses and ETLs, so it will not take a lot of time. We can directly move on a Spark, but before this, you should be very much fine with the Python. You should know how to write on a pseudocode. If I'm providing you one a last assignment, as I had mentioned, there will be one or two small projects so that you can like judge how much knowledge Python you got, because at the end you have to write down the code. Fine. So just because of this thing, I do provide the daily basis assignment. Daily basis assignment, the role, assume that we had covered this thing in our today's session. Now I had explained this thing with some of the examples. I had shared my screen. I had write some of the code for this concept. Assume 3 to 4 example I had written in front of you. Fine. Each and everything will be live. Nothing will be pre-written. Each and everything I will write in front of you so that you can proper able to understand. At any time you can ask your queries. Fine. Then whatever which we had covered today, I will provide you the one assignment for the same concept so that whatever which is covered, you have to try by your own. Coding is something you need to spend some of the time by your own. Fine. After then, there is something a weekly assignment. Weekly assignment in the sense, as you know, one session for date. Assume that in one session we had covered this thing. Second two sessions. Assume it will not take two sessions. So two for loop, two for function. Now, assume in a week these three things are covered. We know these part individually. You had also performed very well in the assignment or of the daily basis. I do provide the weekly assignment. Weekly assignment, that means I do provide the requirement, that this kind of the requirement you have to write down a Python code. I will provide you the problem. You have to give me the solution of give me that solution with Python. So you know these three concepts individually. Now how to write this code, how to use the proper concept at which scenario, at which situation, that is a major thing you should know. Where these things is going to be loop. As we know, multiple type of the loops are there. Now which loop is preferable at which time? You should aware about that. So these things, BKB assignment will help you a lot for writing the code by your own. Then again the same case with the advanced Python and the same case with the Pandas as well. So this will be our this is how our training is going to be covered.
Yeah, that will be helpful, Aman.
Yes. Because
So,
these are the major things.
sure. So,
Yes,
total, how
yes.
many classes are you planning, Aman, for covering this entire course?
It will be near around 30 to 35 session maximum. Rest depend upon you.
Sure. Yeah.
Because why I let me explain the reason why I had mentioned depend upon you. Like assume today I had covered one concept,
Right.
provided assignment to you. Assume if you have any query in the assignment, my role is just to explain the thing again. If you have any query, feel free to ask anytime. Reason, like it can like time doesn't like matter for me. If it is required 40 hours, I don't have any issue with that. Reason, the whatever I had shown you in the content, I have to complete all the things. If you have any query, you can ask. because it's my responsibility to explain that thing again. The role of trainer is just to create the blocks. If you know how to write on the code, whatever you want to do, it can be done. Like in Python, I think in coding part, nothing is impossible. Whatever type of the problem you have, each and everything can be done.
Yeah, thanks, Aman.
If you
So,
require this thing, this
yeah.
code, I can also share that. This content, I have some of the other course content as well. If you require, I can also share that.